Hello everyone, Him here with your self-love and care update, I guess. So I was talking to a friend of mine and we were chatting about all the stuff that I do, and she said, do you remember, she said, many years ago and when we were younger, how self-love was always attributed to and thought of as narcissistic. So in this video, I want to explore this idea that self-love might be narcissistic, and is it? And I want to explore these questions because I think it's really important that we kind of before we dive into areas of self-love, that we look at the other side and sort of question that and ask ourselves if these things are real, right? So I want to get all the questions around self-love and care sorted, and then we can deep dive into the other areas. But let's look at this question. So historically and conceptually, I do remember really distinctly when I was younger that self-love was often put in this under this narcissistic umbrella, this idea that if you were being caring and loving to yourself, then somehow you were not being a good person, right? Now, before we go on with this word narcissism, I do want to clarify one thing. I'm not talking here about the DSM-5 NPD diagnosis, okay? What I'm talking about here is toxic personality traits that people can display, okay? So what we're doing is we are having a think about whether self-love, and if you move into that area, brings you into this narcissistic framework. So, I kind of wonder about this. Now, I think it comes from the story of Narcissus. Do you remember? Does anyone remember this story? Narcissus looked in water and fell in love with his own reflection. Okay. So this idea that to be a narcissist was to love yourself. And I get this sense that story, and I don't know enough about it, but I have got some links in the bottom. I've done a bit of research. So if you are interested in stories, have a look at the story of Narcissus. And I think that what it came from was this overwhelming, maybe not so healthy care of self. So if it stepped into more negative personality traits, and I think that's probably what that was, right? So if you're anything like me, you might be interested in that story. So do check it out and have a little look and see what you think. Anyway, so before I go on, if you have any questions that are like self-love questions in the negative sense, even in the positive sense, stick them in the comments, because I'd really like to do content that you're really looking for you. Into self-love because of my position in life and things that were happening to me, and that's how I got to the space where I was taking care of myself that way. But yeah, we'll talk more about that later. So I want to go back to this whole idea of whether it is narcissistic to step into self-love and care, or if self-love and care is itself a part of narcissism. So the bottom line is that, it used to be seen as quite selfish to love yourself. It used to be seen as quite, how do I put it? As if you were very self-important and you were kind of all about yourself. Now, I think that if we look at this, and I'll talk more about it, I think we look at this more, we'll get a bit more clarity around it. And because there are so many traits in the negative polarity of the narcissist, okay? So we'll think about that, but maybe think about that for a moment, and we'll come back to it, okay? Because, there's many types of those type of narcissists. There's like the grandiose, the covert, that kind of thing. I think that it was probably seen the way that narcissism may be related to self-love because the understanding wasn't there. The understanding of what self-love really is and really could be wasn't there, right? So there's this possibility that in that framework, yes, it could possibly be thought of as, yes, you are being selfish maybe. However, there's an interplay in our society as a rule of what is acceptable and what isn't, and within our human understanding and how we see things. So if you think about it, this question has come up because of a past belief. My friend and I were raised in a time where the idea of this, even the word itself, self-love, was kind of funny, right? Because I remember my ex and I once saying, oh, well, it's love of self. And clearly that can't be good, because when you step into this idea of loving just you, it kind of denotes you've got almost a wall around you and everybody else is behind it, and you're sort of bubbled up, and you don't, you're here we go, you're isolated, you're in a bubble on your own, and and you're alone. And so there you go. It's quite interesting when you think of it like that, right? But it kind of does bring that kind of thinking about. Okay, so for example, for myself, I was really aware as a child and as I got older of my impact and my behaviour on other people. I'm very sensitive and empathic, and because of this, I didn't want to be seen as selfish or narcissistic. And this idea of, if love was selfish and narcissistic, then obviously I couldn't be it, right? So, I put others first. I just put others first. It was just something I did. And it's quite interesting when I say this to you guys, and kind of it's secret sauce for you guys, because people that know me wouldn't really put me under that umbrella. I don't think they would anyway. And I might have a poor conception of how people see me, because we do tend to in life, right? But that is how it is for me. I was very much about making sure others felt good first, and then checking in on myself, which, good or bad, it was the way I was behaving. Okay, but one day I kind of woke up to the fact that something was amiss, something wasn't right, something just wasn't right, and I was constantly feeling as if I basically felt as if I was giving too much of myself, and I was constantly exhausted, and I felt like I was firefighting. And the thing was, I wasn't just firefighting in one area of my life, I was firefighting everywhere. My relationship, firefighting. My relationships with family and friends, also firefighting. My social aspects, firefighting. My health, firefighting. My monetary aspect, firefighting. My job and career, firefighting. My relationships with colleagues and stuff, firefighting. I couldn't really bring it together because there was areas that were untapped within me. And so, yeah, it kind of left me pretty exhausted. It did leave me exhausted. In that moment, I realized that self-love is an essential part of life, right? And narcissism being attached to it was narcissism not the word I want. Narcissism being attached to it, it's an inaccurate label, right? So, I needed that for me at that point, right? I really, really needed that. So just that knowledge opens me up to new ways of thinking. Just that knowledge in and of itself opens me up to new ways of thinking and being within myself, right? I suppose you could say it gave me the strength to explore and to move forward and to develop my life with a loving and caring attitude around it. This beautiful, that bubble, my bubble became a little bit more rosy and functional for me. And it also gave me the permission and the strength to leave toxic situations and to tap out of experiences that weren't good for me, right? It just gave me that ability. Now, because I felt that self-love was akin to toxicity before, right, I did hit major fear points in my life, and my beliefs started to really weigh in a lot, and my inner voice got quite loud, and it was if there was a lot of inner voice tennis, okay? So there was like me saying I really want to change, and I think that maybe this might be good for me, and the other voice saying, well, if you do this, how are people going to look at you? They're going to think you're selfish. And the voices just kept going back and forth and back and forth. So I had to push through it and ignore my old patterns, right? And soften into a new way of thinking. I had to soften and pause and just check in with myself, right? Now, I had to fall in love with this idea of the self-care and the love energy. I had to put myself first, right? And that was important to me. And it really did work for me, right? So, the rest is history, because I totally let myself explore the question, and I tested it. I really put it to the test. I mean, the litmus test was, as you know, if you watched any of my other videos, it was a decade of me getting this together and bringing it into real cohesion, and so it was a real solid something that I could do, right? This question's still there, isn't it? It was and is self-love, and is self-love narcissistic? So, my conclusion is no. It's not, is it, right? Because love is love. And when we're treating ourselves with dignity and respect, then we can treat everybody with dignity and respect. And how could that be seen as selfish or toxic? And obviously there is more to this. And we'll explore that. We'll explore that in future videos, right? Now, if you're already toxic or narcissistic, one could say that means selfishness is already a baseline for that kind of person, right? So yes, one could understand how a correlation could be made between the two. You could understand it, right? However, a giving, loving, selfless person that protects others, right, has a deep knowledge, and they thrive from stepping into areas of love and care because they've never really been there. And when they thrive from stepping into areas of love and care, those people are able to give to other people in such harmonious and beautiful ways. So therefore, this question if this question does come up for you, right? If it comes up for you, then I guess that it could be a great indicator that love and care will benefit you. I guess it's also to remember that self-love and care isn't selfish, it just is. This idea and concept where we label everything can be harmful. I think it's really harmful. I think, we need to be really careful of how we are labeling things and what we're giving them as titles, right? Because it's harmful to our future development as a human species if we are constantly labeling things. Because once we label something, we box it in. And once we box it in, we have to find the secateurs or the scissors or whatever, the hammer, to get out of the box, right? Let's remember that we can give ourselves, right, permission to be our best selves. And that, I think, is the answer in this. The answer is we need and we deserve to be our best selves. And anyway, really amazing, beautiful people, if you've enjoyed this video, please do subscribe. I'd love to have you on board as one of the community here, and we can support and help each other through this together with your experiences and mine. Maybe something good can come out of the world that we're living in, right? Yeah, hit the bell if you want notifications. I thank you so much for being here with me. Namaste, and sending you so much love as always, and I will hopefully see you soon. Take care, lots of love, bye bye, and kisses. Bye. Take care, bye, lots of love.